Today on CityCast Nashville, we're talking about the essential rules for life in Music City. Whether you're an established local, a relative newcomer, or a tourist just in town for the weekend, there's some things you've got to know to fit in here, bless your heart. And just our luck, there's a new book out that's packed with suggestions. Music City Musings was written by longtime Nashvilleian Michelle Spiva, and she's in the studio today alongside our Hey Nashville newsletter editor Margaret Kingsbury, whose own list of essential rules has been blowing up on our website. CityCast Nashville is presented by our exclusive launch sponsor, Tecovas. It's Tuesday, September 24th. I'm your executive producer, Whitney Pastorek, and this is what Nashville's talking about. I want to start by saying I feel like every city has its own set of sort of quote unquote rules for people who live here. But here in Nashville, we're pretty hardcore about people being locals versus being tourists. And I think that some of that has to do with downtown. So let's start with our first and possibly most essential rule, which is we don't go downtown if we can help it.
Absolutely not. We never go downtown if we can help it. Now, I will say there are a couple of carve-outs for the Ryman, the Ascend, but I don't know a single local who would ever go down to Broadway between 1st and 5th.
Margaret, you're from here more or less. What are your takes on that?
You know, I will go to very select events, like at the Shimmerhorn if there's something cool going on there. I'm at the Nashville Public Library a lot, not at night.
Yeah, I feel like downtown during the day is pretty safe. I very much enjoy driving down Broadway in the daylight and looking at the historic buildings. It reminds me of when I first came here back in the 90s with my mom. You know, it feels like, oh, I still remember that old soul of Nashville. But yeah, I'm out of there by like 8 p.m. on a weekend. I'll go to Roberts on like a Tuesday at 4:30.
My Uber driver drove me through there one night because I was on the east side and trying to get back to the west side where my house is. And I was like, wow, it's really pretty down here at night, as if I haven't lived here for decades.
Absolutely. One of my favorite things to do when I go to the Ryman is park. Now, see, this is something we're not going to be able to do anymore after the next year or so, but I like to park at the pedestrian bridge on the east side of the river, walk across the pedestrian bridge and take in the skyline from there.
Oh, nice.
And then walk to the Ryman. It's beautiful. On a gorgeous night in Nashville, it makes you feel terrific. But for the most part, I mostly steer clear. And there has to be somebody really good at the Ryman.
Yeah, no, I almost am never down there at night. I will say I was actually downtown yesterday because the Bobby has a rooftop pickleball court. So that was a great way to kind of experience downtown, but not be in the middle of everything.
And that feels like it's something that's definitely set up for locals. The other thing that we've noted, Michelle, you especially want to point out that cowboy hats and cowboy boots are for theme parties. These are not for Nashville. Again, this seems like something that locals know and tourists don't. Please explain.
Yeah, I feel like every tourist who comes to town, or even a newcomer who comes to town, they immediately go out and buy cowboy boots and cowboy hats, or definitely the cowboy boots. That's like number one. And I've never seen a local in cowboy boots unless, we're all going to a theme party or something. I don't know where the idea came from, but it's Western, it's Texan. It is not Nashville.
I will say, even though I agree with you, that I know some good old boys, rural Nashville folk who wear cowboy boots and cowboy hats. Not the matchy ones. Like my niece will come up here from Georgia to party in downtown sometimes. She's 30. And she'll wear her whole group.
30.
Yeah, she's 30. Before everyone thinks when I say niece that I mean like a child, but no, she's an adult grown woman. She and her whole gang will wear matching white cowboy hats and white boots. So I'm not talking about that. My Uncle Jeff, who lives in a farm out in Madison, he wears cowboy hats and cowboy boots, non-ironically.
Okay, so I'm a Texan. I grew
Okay.
up in Houston, Texas, home of the Houston Rodeo. I definitely wore cowboy boots growing up, despite not having a cow. I don't identify them particularly with Nashville. And I tend to get sort of offended whenever we're on like football games on national broadcast and it's all boots and hats and stuff like that, because I do think that Nashville is so much more than that. I would, however, and I think this is important before we move on, like to give a shout out to our exclusive lunch sponsor, Tacovas, who, if you are in the market for Western boots and Western wear, please check out their store at 5th and Broad. And if you don't want to go downtown, they've got a new location at the Green Hills Mall.
Nicely done.
Thank you. Thank you. The next thing I want to talk about in this sort of like tips for locals, especially new locals. So we're all neighbors here. And I want to ask the two of you what that means to you.
To me, that means that when I'm out and about and I run into people, whether I know them, whether I don't know them, I'm really friendly. This is an incredibly friendly town. We all talk to each other. We talk to each other when we're queued up in lines. And I also think we help out our neighbors. Nashville's been known to be a town where people rally and band together in hard times.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I'd add, I go on lots of hikes and I always wave and nod at people on my hikes.
I hold doors, and I think sometimes
Yeah.
people get very confused by that. I noticed when I moved here 10 years ago that one of the first things that struck me was if somebody comes to your house, if it's a plumber or somebody who's coming to clean your gutters, you're having a 30-minute conversation.
Yeah, my electrician stays for like an hour or more chatting with us. We're both from White Bluff, so he'll just talk for hours.
There is a phrase when you're talking to your neighbors, though, that you need to watch out for because it sounds innocuous, but it's not.
Bless your heart.
That's exactly right. You have just been insulted, my friends.
Absolutely.
Most of the time it's an insult. And sometimes I have gotten it, though, where I think they're being serious. They really mean, bless your heart. Like, I'm going to be praying for you tonight for whatever it is.
So there's like the pitying version.
There's the pitying version. Yeah, there's different versions of bless your heart.
And then there's you're a dumbass version.
Yeah.
I feel like it's when people are talking about someone else and they use the bless her heart, that's normally an insult. To your face, it's normally a pity. That would be my distinction.
This is a small town. So gossip is definitely going to fall in the wrong ears. People are going to be saying bless her heart about one or more of us on a regular basis. But at the same time, there's also always somebody there to help you out.
I always love when I go to a new place and I'll be talking to someone and then we realize we have mutual friends.
Yeah, no, we're more of a 2 degree of separation town than a 6 degree of separation town.
Yep. It's a beautiful thing. Got to lean into it. Speaking of neighbors, let's talk about how to drive like a neighbor. And I do mean drive because you're going to need a car to live in Nashville.
You are definitely going to need a car to live in Nashville. We have public transportation, but nobody uses it. I'm kind of optimistic that Freddie may be able to change that. But right now, everywhere you go is going to be in a car.
And Margaret, you don't drive.
Yeah, that's right. I have a health condition that prevents me from driving. So I lean into the everybody's a neighbor idea and I bum rides off of everybody.
Michelle, something you pointed out to us, though, I think this is an important note. Honking is for emergencies.
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of the new people who've come to town, and I've heard it, I've heard locals say, like if I'm dining outside and they hear a horn, they'll say that person must be new to town. Unless like a wreck is imminent, we're not going to lay on the horn. That's considered very rude, very impolite, and just something we don't do here.
Another thing I think we want people to know is that we need you to be cautious if you're attempting to use one of our limited crosswalks. Margaret, what's been your experience as our resident hiker/walker?
I definitely look all ways and then continue looking all ways as I cross the crosswalk. I have been almost run over. There's a crosswalk near my house that I frequently walk, and I've almost been run over so many times, people careening down a hill and they don't want to stop at the crosswalk.
I used to feel confident when I made eye contact with the driver that I was going to be able to cross and not get hit. But I have had them make contact, smile, wave, and blow past me at 40 miles an hour, just completely oblivious that the stripes in the asphalt are meant to stop them.
Are you able to make any sort of generalization of the types of vehicles those folks tend to drive?
I am not.
I would like to say that one of the essential rules for me in Nashville is mind your P's and Q's around large Dodge Ram pickups. And I'm also going to take an unnecessary swipe at Nissan Altima drivers. I don't know what's up with you people.
My husband used to drive an Altima, and we laugh at it all the time because there's so many Altimas just doing wild things.
Truly wild things. One more note on this front. Michelle, you brought up, and I think this is actually so important. It's not even funny. Please stay inside on snow days, especially with your vehicle.
You know, Nashville gets less than 5 inches of snow a year, but all of us, I think we get so excited when it snows, even though we're told not to go out, don't drive, the roads are terrible. Nashvillians, for some reason, really want to go out and see how bad they are. Are they really bad? Are they drivable? And none of us know how to drive in the snow. So we all need to just stay home, stay safe, listen to the guys at Nashville Severe Weather, believe them. We truly have no idea what we're doing out there.
We wrote about this in our article, and I think it's the one thing that everybody in this town agrees on, which is you need to follow Nashville Severe Weather. They're an incredible grassroots weather forecasting team of just amateur meteorologists who have really, literally saved lives in this town.
In the last tornado that hit the Madison and Hendersonville area, I had a grandmother out by the Rivergate Mall and another grandmother in Hendersonville, and both were less than a mile from where the tornado hit.
Oh, wow.
And I had the best internet connection. We were contacting multiple people. So my mom was on the phone with one grandmother and my dad was on the phone with the other. And I was texting them updates from Nashville Severe Weather so they would know what to tell them to do.
But there's another thing that they always remind us about, Michelle, that you wanted to bring up, which is really crucial for folks to know in this town.
Very few people realize that we have over 100 tornado sirens around town. They're in public areas and they're tested on the first Saturday of the month at noon. And they sound like an old Cold War air raid siren. You know them when you hear them. And almost nobody knows the testing schedule. So people hear them and they think, oh, what's that? Well, it's probably nothing. Well, in Nashville, it might be something.
Right.
So you really need to pay attention and think about what the day and time is, because if it's not the first Saturday of the month at 12, you need to seek shelter and you need to get somewhere fast.
Absolutely. And we did a podcast interview with the Nashville Severe Weather guys back in June, and we'll have the link to that in our show notes if people want to check it out to get their tips on what all you do need to have to be tornado ready. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into the Music City rules for our music scene and being around live music here in town. And then we're going to learn just a little bit more about Michelle and why she wrote this hilarious book.
All right, admit it. It's time to replace your not-so-trusty old boots. You know the best place to shop for quality, handcrafted men's and women's boots is at your local Tacova store, at the Mall at Green Hills, or on Broadway by the Ryman. That's right, you now have 2 locations to choose from, so stop by and grab a cold one as you peruse. Tacova's Nashville is at your service. It's always a challenge to find boots that fit well and can survive a night walking around town, but you can find your perfectly fitted dream boots with the help of Tacova's expert staff. Your new Western boots can elevate a casual look or add a refined flair to any outfit. Everyone will be asking where you got your sick boots, but I won't be asking because I know they must be Tacovas. That's TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all.
We are back talking about the essential rules of Nashville with Margaret Kingsbury, our newsletter editor, as well as author Michelle Spiva. Michelle, you made a great point to us, and you cover this in your book. Nashville has what you call a music code. What is the music code?
So we have a ton of respect for performers here in town. And knowing the music code means that, if you're at a show at Bridgestone, screaming, dancing, yelling with your neighbor is fantastic. If you're at an in the round at the Bluebird, anything above a whisper is going to be frowned upon. So it's just reading the room and understanding what's appropriate behavior at each venue so that you give the performers the respect they deserve.
And I want to point out, too, that we are far more than just country music in this town. Margaret, you brought that up in your article. We have all kinds of genres.
We love listening to jazz as a family and classical, but there's also, rock and punk and hip hop and just all sorts of music here.
If you're at one of those shows and you happen to see somebody coming out of a stage door, or if you're just at Publix and you happen to see somebody, we leave celebrities alone here, right?
That's a hard and fast rule here in town. And I cringe when I see someone approach a celebrity.
I probably wouldn't recognize a celebrity anyway if I saw one, unless they're in Star Trek. But yeah, I leave them alone.
Random Star Trek cast members wandering around.
Yeah. I mean, if LeVar Burton is at the grocery store, he's getting stopped by me.
I think that's true for me,
and
too.
I will fan myself and tell him I love him.
But wait, is that more about Reading Rainbow or about Star Trek?
Probably both. Just both.
Absolutely. All right. If you could bother any one of our local celebrities, assuming you recognize them, Margaret, which one would it be and why?
I don't even know any local celebrities. Can you give me examples of local celebrities?
Dolly Parton.
Oh, you know what? I was at Dollywood once and she walked by and I didn't bother her. So
there you go. She wouldn't be your pick.
Yeah.
Nicole Kidman.
I do know that she's local. I would not bother her.
So basically just LeVar Burton.
Or anyone from, Star Trek. Really, anyone.
All right, Michelle, what about you?
Let's see. I would pick Brad Paisley, and it has nothing to do with his music, but, he and his wife have helped, I feel like, every nonprofit in town with something. They've actually even started a nonprofit of their own that's called The Store, and it provides, it's a grocery store setting for people experiencing food insecurity. And I think he's been really, really great for the city.
Yeah. So if you do see Brad Paisley, we give you permission to bother him just to thank him. I will say that the Nashville celebrity who I would most want to bother is Jack White. But that is solely because I believe that me bothering Jack White would really bother Jack White. Let's get to the most important celebrity who's on this call, which is you, Michelle. Now, we were so glad to find your book, Music City Musings, because it was just in time for this episode. And it was perfect timing that you've released this just as we were thinking about taking Margaret's article and making it into something bigger. So will you please tell us just a little bit about yourself? What qualifies you to have such strong opinions about Nashville? And what made you decide to write this book?
What qualifies me? Well, I've been here since 1990. So I feel like I've been here long enough to know what it is to be a local and how we do things here in Nashville. And I was hearing a lot of my friends lamenting about how these newcomers coming to town didn't understand how we do things here. That was kind of the seed that spawned the book. And as I got into it, started talking to more newcomers, I realized they really don't know anything about Nashville when they come here. They don't know what makes Nashville, Nashville, because we're an unbelievably unique, amazing city. So I started kind of keeping lists and writing, and it morphed into a whole book. And it's not a tourist book. It is definitely a locals guide. It goes through what to expect from Nashville drivers, like the crosswalks. It discusses rookie mistakes that people make when they move here. I have a whole glossary of terms, many of which are unique just to Nashville, like a woo girl or a tall and skinny or mother church. It's a book that I hope makes newcomers feel more connected, more integrated with this amazing city that we have.
All right, I'm going to try for one more out of left field question here and see what we get from either one of you. What is one essential rule of Nashville that you regularly break? I will go first. I hate hot chicken. I hate it. I want nothing to do with it. I think it's so stupid and I don't want to be in pain while I eat.
That is a good one.
I'm going to say I don't actually talk to people at grocery stores unless I feel like there is a need for it. And if someone is talkative, I will try to avoid that person. If I see like somebody just in a line chatting it up and I can tell it's a stranger to a stranger, I'm just like, I'm going to pick a different line to go in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Margaret. The truth comes out.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder how long either of y'all have been here to go breaking these rules. I think that's, you're asking what qualifies me to write the book. I wouldn't break any of those rules.
I've lived in Middle Tennessee since I was 4, so.
All right. You count.
Yeah.
You count as a local, without a doubt.
She's just a misanthropist. It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a delight. We really want to invite our listeners, if you're out there in podcast land thinking, hey, I disagree with some of those, or hey, I have some of my own, drop us an email at nashville@citycast.fm. We will hopefully integrate your ideas into a later show, and we'll pass them on to Michelle for Music City Musings 2. This has been great. Thank you both so much. And get out there and live your lives right.
Thank you.
It was fun.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. Michelle's book, Music City Musings, is available online from Parnassus Books, as well as in great shops all over town, including Grimey's. We'll include a link in today's show notes so you can buy a copy for yourself or others who might need it. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Y'all take care of yourselves.